Good evening, friends. My name is Annie Wilson. I'm very proud to be your programming supervisor at the FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre. I'm here to welcome you this evening. Very happy to be here. We are continuing our online interactive speaker series. We are keeping up the momentum for racial justice and inclusion in St. Catharines. And we are presenting this in partnership with our friends at the Niagara Folk Arts Multicultural Centre, as well as the Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association. So September is rolling on. We are back at school here in Niagara, however that looks for you and your family this year. The insights from tonight's speaker will be particularly valuable for us as we continue to reflect on actions that we can take to be anti-racist and to promote diversity and inclusion. So I'm very much looking forward to this talk. I'm happy to now welcome Edmund, my friend from the folk arts, as well as Cassandra, pardon me. Here we go.
Hello, hello.
Hi, friends.
Hello, friends. Thank you, Annie. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for sharing yet another amazing video to show the resiliency of the arts community as we find ways to share our talents with our community. So that was awesome. Thank you again. And
well, I'm looking forward to this presentation. So I'm going to pass it over to you, and I'll see you on the other end. Thank you kindly.
Thank you again. And so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we just want to welcome you into this discussion. You may or may not recognize Cassandra from our very first episode. We have brought her back by popular demand because she has a lot of insight to share. And this time I'm going to do my best to step aside and just give her all kinds of time to delve into all kinds of wonderful stories and teaching lessons. And so without further ado, the floor is yours, Cassandra.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be back again, this time with a little extra time because I tend to be a little more wordy. So it's nice to have a little more space to breathe and actually really settle into my stories. I'm a storyteller first and everything else second. But I'm also a mother and obviously a Black woman, and I'm raising biracial children, which puts me in a very unique position, kind of like in between two worlds, because that's my everyday situation. And I get to, and my husband and I are very good communicators. We're very open with each other. So we do a lot of comparing notes. We do a lot of does this ever happen to you? You know, we have a lot of those kind of conversations. And I know we're only two people, but I think it's really helped us kind of see a bigger picture of what race is and how it's taken in the Niagara region specifically. So really quickly do a small recap. On the first episode, hopefully some of you guys were there, but for those that didn't get that chance, I shared a little bit about a research that was done and redone twice called the doll test that showcased young children from the ages of 3 to 7 choosing between one doll and the other. Both identical dolls, same dress, same everything, except for the color of the skin. And what they found in this test is that as young as 4 years old, even the little Black girls and boys were choosing and preferring and attributing the more positive traits, the more positive characteristics to the white doll. So 4 years old, and that's very young to me. That's shocking to me because I have a 4-year-old now, and he thinks he can fly. He thinks he's a superhero. He thinks he can save the world. So, and that's normal. That's very normal. I'm very on top. I'm very much a nerd, and I'm very on top of the books about brain development. And I'm an educator, so it's what I do for fun. I love this. And he's very much where he should be mentally. And that's where every 4-year-old should believe they can fly, believe in themselves with that sense. So for them to be able to say which one is the uglier doll, why? And it's it's tragic. You can watch these videos, actually, the original videos from Dr. and Mamie Smith on YouTube, and it's devastating to me. It always brings tears to my eyes for some reason, because it speaks to that internalized bias. And it's not only I'm not here pointing any fingers, because obviously this is an example where even the little Black children have internalized something about themselves and how,
Absolutely.
and they have, yeah. So there's something about this world that has even 4-year-olds able to say, like, I know I am the disfavored. I know I'm the one that's like most likely to steal, most likely to be the meaner one, most likely to be the bad one out of the two options. At 4 years old, they can already make these conclusions. So there's something about this world, and it's intangible and it's almost imperceivable, but there's something
Well,
about it that still gives these messages. And
it
our
does.
brains are fascinating. Yeah, it does.
Well,
It's
it
stuck
does.
in
It
any
speaks
time.
volumes. Speaks volumes to the level of programming and the the
Mhm.
effectiveness of the messaging. So I don't
Agreed.
want to take away from your conversation, but I wanted to
No.
contribute that. And again, it just there's also another phenomenon called the cradle to grave, which is
Mhm.
where certain certain corporations will market their products from the time a person is in infancy and try to maintain that relationship, that buyer-seller relationship, until they reach the grave. So again, so as
Wow.
far as resources go, hopefully we can remember to share all of these various links so people can, you know, do their own research and do their own work. But please
Yes.
go on.
I'm all about the resources. So yes, absolutely. After I have a ton of resources, a ton of podcasts that you can tune into as well. I have a
Okay.
beautiful list that I've curated just for this event. I love learning, and I'm assuming that people that are here love learning. So I will be providing a ton of research, especially because I don't consider myself an expert on anti-racism. I haven't studied it for my whole life. It's not what I did in school. I am a communicator. I am a woman of color, but it's not the same thing. And my experiences with racism and race have been fairly, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that my life was terrible. Like it was not. It was not a terrible life. I've been very privileged because I've been surrounded with neighbors and friends that were very much like putting me under their wing and almost sheltering me from a lot of this, the terrible attributes of the world. I got hints of it, but it wasn't as intense as somebody say in southern states in America. We can only imagine, or we've seen the videos,
So
we've heard the talk. So I definitely believe that my
mhm.
experience is very different. And when I speak about anti-racism and anti-racism parenting, before I dive into it, I want to just really highlight that this includes, like, there's an intersection there. This includes all of the different the variables in which there's differences among us. So it's not just the color of skin. Like that's definitely there, but I'm not just speaking about Black versus white. There's all, like, this is the Multicultural Center. You know that there's a lot more cultures and a lot more
Absolutely.
richness like than that in Ontario and Canada. So I'm speaking about all of those differences, but even able abilities, like that's a difference, and that's something that all of this falls under this category. All of these principles, all of these, I'm going to showcase a couple of ways in which we can navigate this world, but all of these differences among us fall under this category. Ways in which we can communicate to our children, our very curious, very bright children, why the differences are there, what they are, why they exist, and all that beautiful stuff. So I'm going to start with a story. I was
Okay,
in,
let's have it.
let's have the story. So I
Let's have a
was in the
story.
grocery store, and I was in the grocery store. It was one of my first years moving to the Niagara region, and I was in Niagara College. I'm not going to tell you how long ago because I'm not trying to age myself, but let's just say at the time, Niagara College didn't have as many international students yet. They weren't, be world ready yet. Like all of that was like to come. It was in my near future, but it wasn't quite there yet.
Okay.
And so as far as diversity goes, I looked around and there was nobody like me, and that seems to be the theme of my life. Like I've always been like the only one, the only Black person so for me it wasn't uncomfortable. For me it was just like, oh, another one of those places, a very white looking space, and I'm a Black person that sticks out literally like a sore thumb. I'm 6'3", Amazonian woman, and I went to Niagara College on a full ride volleyball scholarship. So I don't only like command attention because I'm different, but I'm also a giant. So that doesn't help my case as far as sticking out goes. But I think it's become my like superpower. Like I make people react by just being around them and like hovering over them and looming over them. And so I've become good along the years of, one, being stared at, it's like just another day in the life. And two, just like navigating all of the different, like the one-liners, the like, how's the weather up there? Like, I'm a pro. But so as far as people skills, interpersonal skills, that developed with time because, however, I'm in the grocery store in a small town I never heard of called St. Catharines. I'm a big city slicker from, Hamilton, Toronto area. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be my home for the next, 4 years because I was going for the degree. And this little girl, like, stops in the middle of her tracks, like back in the day when little kids were allowed in the grocery stores, but stops in the middle of her tracks and like looks at me, jaw drops. I'm just like, uh-oh, she's going to say something interesting. And she's like, Mom, look. That lady's dirty. Why is she all dirty? She's all dirty, Mom. Look. And her mom was mortified. It was like she got punched in the face. She did not know what to say. She just like, I could like, you can almost hear her not breathing. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh. So her face, the mom's face, the daughter's face, and the daughter couldn't be any older than like 3.5, 4 years old, that golden age, right? That where their personalities are just starting to like sprout out. And I thought I'd step in because her mom did not know what to say, how to react. And her mom's instinct was to pull her in and say, hey, don't say that, don't do that. And I disagree. I disagree absolutely with that scenario. I disagree with the way that she handled that. So I took it upon myself to like get down into their level, face to face with kids, because that's how I've always been taught. I've always worked with kids. Get down to their level. I said, no, actually, I'm African. I'm from Kenya. My skin is black because of this, because of the melanin, and I'm from the South. And in fact, I've never had a sunburn in my whole life. And I've never worn sunscreen. And she was just like, what? That's a major concern of hers. It was, and I'm like, no, it's just never been an issue. I mean, I know, and I also said, like, do you want to touch like my skin? And she's like, it's soft. I'm like, I know it is soft. I moisturize, but it was just like we were having this back and forth. We were going back. I was telling her more things about me. It's like, yeah, I'm just like you. I have a heart inside, 2 lungs. Everything else is the same, but the color of my skin is different. That's the only difference. And people come in all shapes and sizes and colors. You just wait, young girl. You're going to see the world. And that's it. She was just like, wow, thanks. And that was it. So the research behind this shows that so many parents aren't talking about race because it's awkward. And 1, because it's awkward. 2, because they don't have to. And 3, we're doing a lot of bypassing when it comes to matters of race. Bypassing meaning like, love everybody. Everybody is great. Everyone is awesome. There's no difference. We're all the same. That is not true. And your children know that is not true. And that is a blatant lie. So when my teaching method, I'm very intentional about my teaching. I'm very intentional about the way in which I parent my children. It's based on Magda, a woman named Magda, and I love Janet Lansbury as well. It's called Respectable Parenting, and I hope you look it up. But it's basically reminds me of Michelle Obama's mother, who always said, "I'm not raising babies, I'm raising adults." You know what I mean? They're little humans. They're little people. So empowering them to have a little more like authority and ownership of their lives. Like not only like giving them giving them like arbitrary options between like blue cup and red cup. Like that's important, but that's not it. But it's also about like giving them the option to like put their own food on their plate. Like not force them, there's a bunch of different areas, but this also includes telling them the truth, telling them the truth as like at the level that they are without scaring them. Because, if they're 4 and you want to talk to them about racism, you don't have to speak about the fact that there were people that were hung because they were Black and killed. Like, you don't have to terrify them and give them nightmares.
Absolutely not.
We have this knowledge in all of us. And I feel like that's where a lot of the fear comes from. There's a lot of doom and gloom around race that even we have a problem, like trouble separating, the atrocities and the scary from just the facts. But the facts are there. The facts remain that there are human beings that look very different, and that means different things at different times. So we're not talking about race. That's what the research is showing, but I want that to change, because if I had let that situation go, and especially now that I've educated myself to this point, if I had let that situation in the grocery store go, if I had just like kept my mouth shut, let that woman sit with that awkward moment, and and reprimand her child, her innocent, well-meaning child, for asking questions. First of all, being reprimanded for asking questions about the world you have yet to discover as a child sends the wrong message. I mean, how is that going to help her in any capacity? It doesn't make any sense.
Through life.
And for the second thing, they might get the wrong lesson from it. They might be like, oh, wow, my mom was really angry. And this anger came when I saw this Black woman. So my conclusion in my childish mind is that Black people are something to be angry about, Yeah. That's not what you said. It's not what she said or meant. Yeah. But these conclusions can be drawn. And remember, these are developing minds, and they don't, we can't expect rational adult thoughts from a child. You can't. That's why you have to step in. And that's why you have to do the work and forget about the awkwardness and just stick to the facts. Be factual and get to their level, and not over deliver with the information and to scare them. So giving them those honest responses to the endless questions is really important, but also correcting them without making a scene, but correcting them when they do have transgressions, because they will have transgressions, including that one. Like maybe later on, I hope, but I don't know, I'm not there. But maybe later on, I'm hoping that woman also sat down with her child and said, look, that's a crazy world, like it's a big, beautiful world, and people look differently, and it's not like, I was a nice woman. I am a nice woman, but I can't speak for every woman. I can't speak for everyone's experience. And, we all have our baggage, our traumas, our weird, so somebody else may not have reacted as positively to that situation. So even just not only teaching them about the world that they're in, but also those social skills. Like, that was an awkward moment. I'm just the queen of awkward moments, being like, because of the life I've had, but it's not everyone has that skill. I don't expect that for everyone. So without addressing these moments, you are almost guaranteeing these awkward moments, whether you're there or not. Who knows what the situation may be, but having these conversations with your children at the level that there are is very, very important. And because they don't have the filter that we have, we develop that later on in life. And the big gift of perfect parenting by Brene Brown, is a book that I love, because it's about addressing shame, not inviting shame, but inviting that connection and that conversation for that opportunity for growth, and really seeing the humanity in every situation that you encounter, because we are human beings on this planet, there is humanity to be seen there. So when it comes to anti-racist parenting, saying be nice to everyone is simply not enough, because there are children out there, like the 4-year-old girl from the experiment, that are already putting themselves in that second-class citizen box without even no one telling them to be there. They're already putting themselves there. It's already happening. So anti-racism parenting also includes acknowledging that there are some people among us that already feel othered. They already feel othered. They already feel awkward. They already feel like they don't belong. So there might be a need for some extra love, some extra, maybe make more efforts to, like, my mom always encouraged me, for example, because I switched schools a lot, to like make a new friend every day. Saying something like that without saying like, make sure they're Black. Like, no, you don't have to, because eventually they're gonna get to the immigrants in the classroom. Because if you're making a new friend every day, guess what? That means everybody gets a chance to play with you. And just making sure that, because those that feel othered and that have internalized this otherness feeling might be standoffish. Who knows how it may, manifest in their lifetimes. Who knows how that 4-year-old that chose, the Black doll for all of the negative attributes in the doll test, how she's interacting on the playground. We don't know. All we know is that it's happening, and there's evidence, and it's real. And what we can do on the other side of this, with these facts in our hands, is maybe try to nurture and encourage a sense of nurture and a sense of, that extra, just a little bit extra nurture for the people that look differently than them. I think that is very important. So I'm going to leave you with 4 A's. No, I'm going to add an A because I feel like it. I'm going to leave you with 5 A's.
5 A's.
And this is from somebody, and I'm forgetting his name, but you will see him in the resources. His podcast is amazing. It's all about minorities and their experiences, and it's just incredible. So if you're here, I'm assuming you would enjoy this podcast, because every episode it's wholesome, it's funny, but every episode really does dive into some of the real stuff. And he does it in a way that doesn't sting so bad, because even speaking about this, a lot of people avoid it like the plague because they're afraid. It's a scary topic in racism. So the 5 A's. Number 1 is acknowledgement. Acknowledge what you've seen and witnessed. Acknowledge what that mother did in the grocery store. She didn't even acknowledge it. She just didn't know what to say. It's awkward. You think you're gonna acknowledge it, but when you're in the moment, you're gonna find yourself having to push against the grain to act in the way that that we're gonna be discussing here. His name, I wrote it down. Look at me. Talent McNeely is his name.
There's the name.
That's the name.
There we go.
So acknowledging not only that racism is real, or that something that was done and said that was wrong, acknowledging this, it was wrong. That's an acknowledgement. You don't even have to actually, you don't even have to think about this for much, but with your children, acknowledge it with your children, because sometimes there's even bias in children's literature. For example, Richard Scarry, he writes the cute little cartoony pictures, books, for example, The Lowly Worm. If you look at those books, you can see the biases with, first of all, there's sexism bias. The women are always in the kitchen and you know what I mean? And cooking. There's always some kind of baking happening with the women. It's why can't women, or the girls, or but there's also racial bias, and it's weird. So when you encounter things like this in older books, and I know it's not meant, because I don't believe in moral absolutism. I believe that people really, like Maya Angelou said, those who know better do better. And honestly, if we're speaking about the old stuff, the old classics, sometimes you're going to encounter some weirdness. Acknowledge it. Don't assume that they're going to make the right assumption, and no, always acknowledge it. Be that's a little weird. Women don't always belong in the kitchen. Let's continue the story.
Let's continue.
Yeah.
And may I just, I still want to give you all kinds of time, but I want to remind you, you have about 3 minutes to give us the other 4 A's.
Other 4 A's, I'll rapid fire them.
Yes.
So 1 is the acknowledgement, 2 is the awareness. Because, for example, I'm really quickly for an example, when there's a terrorist organization that executes somebody, behead someone on video camera, we don't see the video. We don't see that video. It just doesn't happen. Out of respect for the family, out of respect for us, it's going to be a little traumatizing. We don't see the video. However, the world was able to watch for 8 minutes and 49 seconds as George Floyd's life was taken away. And do you remember who he called for it? His mama. So at the end of the day, we as parents are still we're still at the foundation of all of this, and what we do and how we act matters and will always matter. So awareness of that, 1, being very traumatic for a lot of people, and 2, not acknowledge that you may not, being aware that you may not fully understand. Like for many people, including me, watching George Floyd, I didn't just see a random man. I saw like my brother, my uncle, my father in that man. So it wasn't just a video. I was mourning like I was lost a family member. So that awareness of how deep it goes for me is good. It's great. It's like something that I hope everyone can hold on to. Number 3 is action. When you see something wrong, you see someone mean-spirited, or a drunken uncle says something at Thanksgiving, call him out on it. Don't let people get away with this anymore, because seeing you call an adult out on something, you are literally showing your child to do the same in the playground. You don't have to tell your children to stand up for people. You just have to stand up for people, even if they're not in the room, because that you will be imitated. Number 4 is accountability. I know a lot of people made big grand promises about changes that they were making in their businesses. If they don't have, diversity and they wanted to have more inclusion, call them out on it. Accountability. If they were on Instagram saying, hey, the difference between virtue signaling and actual virtue is the action that goes behind it. And the 5th one is the accreditation. So if something is borrowed from another culture, I would love for it to be celebrated. When we speak about anti-racism, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It doesn't have to focus on only the negative and only the racism, because racism is like a terrible thing. But anti-racism work also includes, multicultural awareness. It also includes like celebrating all of the diversity and the beautiful and the richness of this world, just like the folk arts festivals do, and this organization is wonderful for that. But the food, the music, the culture, do that at home and gain an appreciation. Maybe there's a 6A, who knows? An appreciation
Probably is.
from all of the diversity that is out there. That will definitely get you on the right foot for anti-racism. How'd I do?
You did amazing. That's
Awesome.
that's another A. Amazing. But yes, you're very welcome, and thank you so very much. At this point, I'm hoping that we can generate that list. I'm hoping that it can be a starting point for ongoing conversations. And I really do want to invite anybody who has joined us on this platform to hop over onto Zoom, where we're going to dive a little bit deeper onto this topic. For now, we will do a little bit of small talk until Annie returns. But ultimately, I think that our Zoom session is scheduled to start at 7:30. So again, for any of those participants who would like to join us, alongside with Cassandra, we're going to dive deeper into the subject content. We're going to create a safe space where we can engage in a stimulating conversation full of wonderful stories, and hopefully a lot of our audience can move to Zoom for an in-depth facilitated conversation starting now. There's Annie. All right. Hello, Annie. Hello again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cassandra. That was really enlightening. There are a lot of really great insights. I was taking notes on different authors and some reading and follow-up for myself to do personally. So thank you so much for being with us. And yes, you are off to Zoom. I will join you shortly, but I will tie things up here. So thank you so much, and we'll see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again, Cassandra. Thank you, Edmund. Okay, friends. So I have just shared with you in the comments the link to join us on Zoom right now. I will post it again in just one moment. But we do welcome, all are welcome to join us for a safe, respectful conversation. The chat will begin right now and may take up to an hour. That's it for us this evening with this particular talk. We will be back next month and many months after that with our friends from the Niagara Folk Arts Multicultural Centre, as well as Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association, continue these important, critical conversations and to continue to ensure that these insights are shared widely. What's coming up next at the FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre? Well, I can promise you and assure you that we are working very hard behind the scenes to put together some really great programming for this fall. I know this weekend there are all sorts of activities going on in celebration of the Wine Festival, of Franco Ontario Day. I know that our friends at In the Soil Arts Festival will be sharing their Rhizomes program. So do take a look at all of the wonderful things that are going on in our community, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care of yourselves and each other, and thank you. Bye for now.